What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. Okay, another one of these. I personally love making these videos as it gives me a chance to show or give a perspective on where WWE and their storylines were in those weeks. Plus, it's a nice change from those feuds and everything else. So if you got a similar idea, something that isn't a feud, title reigns, then please comment it down below. I read your comments. Some of you guys suggest some good ideas like an individual's best year, if this guy's better as a heel or face. I read those comments and I actually plan on making those kinds of videos. Now, many see this as the fall of WWE, like everything was trash from here on. Do I agree? Hell no. Just look at what was going on that year during the PG era and tell me that it was bad. That said, 2008 was one of my favorite years in WWE. The pay-per-views definitely put up a fight with any other year. The only 2 years that were either on par with 2008 or were better, depends on your opinion, were 2000 and 2001. The worst pay-per-view that year was Survivor Series, but other than that, the rest were decent to legendary. Now the big question, why did they go PG? Well, it's simple. They wanted to clean up their image in the aftermath of the Benoit tragedy. The Signature Pharmacy scandal was doing a number on them too, and Linda was planning on running for Senate in 2010. Also, they wanted more sponsors as a PG product was more appealing than what they were doing previously. It's as simple as that. The PG rating meant no blood, and it wasn't really a kid's product though, as the two views that were going on during this time period were pretty far away from PG. Anyways, right now let's get into, you know how this goes. We just cover those episodes. We don't cover everything necessarily. We just cover something that's memorable, something that caught my eye. Basically that. The first show I'll cover is Raw. At this point, I'd say Raw wasn't really bad. It was decent. You had the funny guys, the serious guys, the entertaining bunch, so it was fun. And that intro. Like, I can't stress it enough. My favorite Raw intro, that one. This is the one, like, what can I say? Remember this intro very well. The biggest story on the show was that of Batista and John Cena. Cena accidentally struck Batista the previous week, and this was obviously going to lead to something. The show starts off with John Cena walking down to the ring to discuss the events of last week. He was obviously booed as the show was in Batista's hometown. Cena acknowledged the mixed reaction. He gave us a speech on how he's imperfect, and he admitted how he punched Batista in the mouth last week, and he is well aware that there is consequences. He then asked for Batista to come out so they could settle their differences right now. Now at this point, we were really anxious to see the match between these two. They were two of the most popular stars on the entire roster, and they have yet to have gotten a match against one another. Batista then came out donning a Bullets jersey. He had every right to be pissed. 2 nights in a row, someone cost him the world title. He had understood that things happen in the heat of moment, and so they're cool. He said that he respects John, and when he beat CM Punk for the title at SummerSlam, Cena will be the first man to get a title shot. The former champ said that Batista already blew his chances, and Cena was a little hesitant in his delivery. Like, he didn't want to offend Batista, but he had to say it. Like, you got a title shot, and you blew it twice. Batista then explained why his shot at the title was dashed before telling Cena that just like CM Punk, you can't beat me. Cena knew that Batista was going to sneak that up on him, and since Raw's run like WWE in 2020, no GMs, utter chaos, Cena believed that this WrestleMania quality match should happen tonight. Batista's answer? He said that this arena is full of friends and family that want to see him whoop John Cena's ass. All of a sudden, Shane McMahon made his way out. At this point, Vince was nowhere to be found. Check out this video if you want to. The set fell onto him or something, and so he was out for like 8 months. Yeah, he was out for 7 months, not 8 months. But yeah, so in his absence, Shane McMahon and a couple of other people, I guess, were running Raw. Although by the looks of it, you won't think that's the case. Shane O'Mac announced that there's actually a general manager for Raw. So what that meant was that chaos was no longer going to occur, because over the last couple of weeks, there was a bunch of stuff happening. First of all, the new GM booked CM Punk against the hottest free agent, and Shane then announced Cena's already got plans. He's going to face Kane and JBL with his tag team partner, Batista. So yeah, these two are set to team up to face Kane and JBL. Okay, the first match was a tag match. Kelly teamed up with the most unlikely man, I swear. I don't think I've seen such a random pairing, and her tag partner was D'Lo Brown. Personally, I feel bad for him. Like, the pop he got when he came out, it just wasn't good enough for him, in my opinion. He should have gotten a louder pop. He's bopping his head left and right. Come on. Those two faced the team of Santino Marella and Beth Phoenix. These two during this time period, pure gold. I will cover in the future. Santino made himself seem like the dominant male, but we all knew what actually was which. Like, he's saying, I'm the man, blah, blah, blah. And none of the stuff he says, he never backed it up one bit. He was laying down the law, and none of the rules are followed. In the beginning, he was getting his ass kicked, simply put. Santino managed to catch D'Lo off guard and hit a neck breaker of sorts. He failed to lift D'Lo, and Beth successfully did. Santino was utterly shocked, Kelly entered the match and she received a backbreaker, and he, Santino, wanted to enter the match. And the poor guy, he just made an ass out of himself. But he bounced back by rolling up Kelly to win the match. He made it seem like he won a championship, as you can see here. And this duo, like, they're cracking me up. They're trying to forget about last week when Santino was thirsty for more. That didn't happen, though. Instead, Beth grabbed Santino and kissed him, so he got what he wanted. Santino made it seem like he didn't enjoy it when he really did. And Santino, golden. This guy was a very bright spot of the PG era. Like, almost every week, this guy did something hilarious. Whether it be the honkometer, whether it be this, it didn't matter. Every week, he was going to do something hilarious, funny, entertaining, all around. Doesn't matter if he makes a joke out of himself. At the end of the day, he gets us laughing, so there's that. The next match was for the World Tag Team Championships. Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase teamed up to face Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Jerry the King Lawler. The story of this one, DiBiase and Rhodes were arrogant, young. They believed those two were way past their prime and they were looking to vanquish the duo. All of a sudden, though, a referee ran down to the ring and informed Lillian Garcia that the new GM changed this match, which meant Hacksaw wasn't teaming up with Jerry Lawler. Instead, it was Michael Cole? What? Honestly, I don't remember any of this. Cole's reaction was expected. Michael Cole's oblivious to all of this, and I'd compare this to like forcing me to make a video on tennis. I don't know much about it, and you just place me there. I'm a deer in the headlights. So the bell rings, collar and elbow tie up. DiBiase was teasing Lawler. This got him a slap. He bounced back with a clothesline though, and I just realized there's no one to call this one. It had an awkward atmosphere to it. You could just hear John Cone, the referee, yelling. There's grunting, and then Rhodes hit a second rope bulldog. Cole stood in the corner worried for his well-being, but Jerry made a comeback. He was about to hit the pile driver, but DiBiase's involvement cost him. At one point, Cole patted Jerry on the back, which meant he was in. He accidentally tagged himself in, basically. The fans chanted, "We want Michael," and since he was in a very odd situation, he decided to dig himself out of it, delivering a flurry of punches, well, more like punies. Rhodes, though, neutralized him and hit a weird-looking clothesline. 1, 2, 3, that was it. Again, that's all she wrote. I guess Cole was a 1 overall, because first of all, that clothesline was awkward. Second, that's all it took to beat him. And this is something I never actually knew about. I guess you learn something new every day. Cole didn't know what hit him after the match, and after the commercial break, Mike Adamle was the one who provided commentary for Raw. Jerry Lawler was back on the booth, and later that night, CM Punk was set to face a mystery opponent. They claimed he was the hottest free agent, and I know exactly who it was. It was The Undertaker. I mean, who else is it going to be? JBL sat at ringside to give his opinions on CM Punk as he was looking for a title match. As for the opponent, it was William Regal. Punk had a look of dread on his face as this was the same man who beat him in the King of the Ring final. Regal, little context here, he had just gotten fired 2 months earlier, lost the match, and apparently he was set to get a huge push, but he violated the wellness policy for a second time, so he was suspended for 60 days. Collar and elbow once again. Jerry Lawler was still appalled at the booking, like he couldn't believe the new GM placed Michael Cole in a match. In the ring, Punk brought the fight, but so did Regal. Punk was getting his head kicked in, and hey, that ain't PG. Technically he is. The world champion struggled to get back into it. He was bounced off the ropes, and Regal refused to give his opponent space. He tried to wrap it up with a roll-up, but it clearly didn't work. The ring general was all over him. The fans started to get on Punk's side, and this paid dividends. Rights, lefts, elbows, kicks. But Regal bounced back by bouncing Punk, and he tried to apply the Regal stretch, but he failed. Punk all of a sudden lifted him on his shoulders and hit a mean-looking GTS. 1, 2, 3. That's all. Punk struggled throughout the match, and he proved that he was a fighting champion, I guess, by managing to come out of this as the winner. JBL left the commentary booth and he entered the ring. All of a sudden, Kane made his way out to the ring with a bag in hand, and I believe that bag contained the old mask, if I remember correctly. Kane literally punched JBL in the face. Punk kicked Kane in the face, and JBL rebounded with a boot to Punk's face, and he let that punch slide. It was a bizarre sequence. Next up, Chris Jericho's highlight reel. This was promoted as the last one ever remake. I promise it's coming. I just don't want to give you guys repeated content on a day when I shouldn't. Whenever I find the time to make something, I do. Currently working on a movie review video, chaperone, stuff like that. So yeah, I can't just like make this for tomorrow. Many of you guys seen it already, so yeah. But for those of you that didn't, just wait up soon. I will make it. I'll make this, the Edge and Undertaker, Edge and Cena, all those videos will remake. Also, can we talk about the elephant in the room? The damn TV. Like, what's so good about a broken TV hanging in the middle of the ring? Well, it shows just how dark and twisted Chris Jericho became. He shed everything that he previously was, and as a matter of fact, he was everything that he wasn't. I mean, did we ever see Y2J wear a suit before 2008? Never. Okay, in the ring, Jericho believed it was pathetic and meaningless for him to pursue the fans with this stuff, and so tonight's was the last highlight reel the fans were gonna see. Jericho then rolled a clip of the man we're never gonna see again, Sean. Nope, he was talking about Y2J. This clip made it seem like Chris Jericho retired, and yes, a part of him did. Y2J was gone. Jericho said that even if he pandered to the fans for the rest of time, the fans wouldn't have adored him like they did or do with Shawn Michaels. Jericho said that the highlights of beating and destroying Shawn Michaels are more valuable to him than the rest of his career combined. Damn. Lance Cade then grabbed the mic and mentioned how his career was floundering previously. He was stuck with a singing cowboy. That's a story for another day. And Cade, he was thankful of Jericho for saving him. Jericho then sent HBK a message. He asked for him to stay home, move on with his life, hold on to his wife, raise his children, and move on because he had. Like, Jericho moved on. He was focused on something else, that being the World Championship. He believed that he deserved a title shot over the likes of John Cena, JBL, and Batista. So yeah, Jericho, awesome promo, as expected. It really showed just how much he changed. He had that beard on his face, the suits, the highlight reel is no more, and the next week, he debuted the new Trunks. So yeah, credit to Chris Jericho for changing up his characters as the time goes on. A couple of minutes later, JR returned. Like, this episode, it was on something. Like, whoever booked this, like, the way it was going, weird. The next match was between Mickie James and Jillian. At this point, Jillian was better than all the musicians of the time period. She was better than Nelly Furtado, Beyonce, Amy Winehouse, Rihanna, all of them at singing. She was untouchable on the mic. Anyways, Jillian showcased her strength in the beginning. She dominated the women's champion with rough throws, hair pulls. She also showcased her athleticism. Mickie began her comeback. Jillian tried to cancel the attack, but she failed, and Mickie managed to hit the DDT for the victory. As Mickie was celebrating with her father, Katie Lee Burchill attacked the champion. The fans booed, and she did this to grab the new GM's attention. She called herself the future world champion, her brother the future intercontinental champion. Yeah, about that, none of them happened. Backstage, Todd Grisham wanted to know who the new general manager was. Shane told him to just tune in and then he'll find out. And now it was time for the main event. John Cena and Batista confronted one another just beforehand, and Batista said that neither of them trust each other. He told Cena to just stay out of his way, and Cena obliged. They then argued over who goes first to the ring. By the way, this just shows how smart JBL was. Like, he knew that he was teaming up with Kane. He was wise not to return the favor. Batista received a warm reception as expected, and the story of this one, as explained by JR, whoever implodes first loses the match. Everyone was a viable contender for the title, and Cena in the beginning gained the upper hand, but Batista tagged himself in. Batista displayed his dominance, chaos unfolded inside and outside the ring, and before we knew it, Cena and Batista had a stare down. After the commercial break, Cena struggled. Kane and JBL isolated the champ, and the duo actually worked as a cohesive unit. Cena, though, fought back and went back and forth, and Batista was chomping at the bit to just enter the ring. He was finally in and got the hot tag sequence from SVR 2009. He was absolutely unstoppable, rights, spinebuster, and just as he was gaining a lot of steam, Kane thwarted the attack. The teamwork between those two was much better than that of Cena and Batista's. Like, just look at that. JBL had the momentum, but Batista rebounded with a vicious spear. Kane got involved in this, led to JBL accidentally blasting his own tag team partner. And the funny part is, it was actually counted as a tag. Cena tagged himself in and he hit the FU on Kane. 1, 2, 3. Batista wasn't proud of that, but now it was time for the GM to be revealed. Shane came out and introduced the new general manager of Raw, Mike Adamle. What? Their reactions, like, that's what got me. And he's playing it casual, like, what's up, Dave? What's up, John? And Batista was disgusted, Cena's laughing, and he then booked both men in a matchup at SummerSlam. Okay, right when I finished the highlight to Hell in SummerSlam 2002, we're jumping on this one. Fun show that was. As for this one, from what I watched, it wasn't bad. Bunch of stuff was going on, though, to tell the point that this GM was unpredictable, but that reveal was hilarious. Like Adamle, I don't think anyone expected him to be the GM at that point. Moving on to ECW, Matt Hardy started to become the face of the brand. Mark Henry was finally given a run with some title, and Morrison and Miz were the standouts. As Hardy was speaking about his match with the champ, Mark Henry came out along with Tony Atlas. Atlas undermined Matt and his accomplishments over the last month, but he wasn't out here to insult Matt. Atlas brought out a weapon, and Matt was holding its ground. Mark Henry, though, decided to bend the steel in half. Atlas wanted to demonstrate that Henry was strong, and he teased that he'll do the same to Matt at SummerSlam, except Matt won't bend, he'll break. Henry handed the steal to the challenger, and he actually teased the champion. Matt informed Tony and Mark that they're not having some kind of challenge at SummerSlam. They're having a wrestling match, and he isn't an inanimate object. He said that Mark may break his body, but he'll never break his spirit, and at SummerSlam, he's becoming the next ECW champion. Seeing as Matt was biting a bit more than he could chew, Mark and Tony were looking to soften up Matt ahead of SummerSlam, so they decided to have the greatest wrestler of all time, Colin Delaney, who was shockingly a heel, face Matt Hardy. About that, well, it's something like this. Colin got no offense in, and Matt was on cruise control. He delivered a twist of fate, and that was all she wrote. Mark walked down to the ring, and he literally threw out the trash. I mean, Colin Delaney. And for that bump, they should have just thrown a stack of cash at him. Poor guy, he was getting his ass beat every single week. And I believe this was his last appearance in WWE. Mark believed that was a waste of time, and who doesn't agree? Moving on to SmackDown, Edge was sentenced to hell, and after cheating on Vicky Guerrero with Alicia Fox, his wife decided to book him inside Hell in a Cell. Edge was starting to go crazy as he wasn't able to live without the thought of The Undertaker. That intro, damn, I love it. I'm not sure if SmackDown's roster is better than Raw. I think it is because they had Edge, Triple H, Jeff Hardy, The Undertaker. Maybe it is. Anyways, on to the show. After MVP teased Jeff Hardy by mentioning the house fire the previous week, Jeff Hardy proceeded to call out MVP on this and twist of fate him, and damn, like, he was really pissed. He showed some aggression there, and eventually this led to the matchup between these two at SummerSlam. Backstage, Vicky Guerrero discovered Alicia Fox, and this seemed to piss her off because she was also annoyed by the fact that Edge had a special guest for the show, the Cutting Edge, and at this point, like, it could have been anyone. With that said, Mr. Kennedy was set to face Shelton Benjamin. At this point, WWE started to lose interest in Mr. Kennedy as a main eventer. They tried him as a face, and by the looks of it, it was working out. He's probably going to win the United States Championship eventually. For Shelton, he had a career resurgence of sorts. The gold standard, in my opinion, was awesome, simply put. That title belonged on his waist, and I wish we got to see him hold one of those world titles, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, Shelton, like, he had a lot of good matches during this year of SmackDown, which I will cover eventually. Okay, collar and elbow, side headlock in the very early going. Shelton, well, he was targeted. The shoulder was starting to become a liability, but he would fight back, delivering a suplex, a very clobbering right, and Kennedy's response, clothesline, shoulder lock, and Shelton tried to save him the hold, but he just couldn't. He even tried a body slam, and he failed. Kennedy, it seemed like he was 2 steps ahead of Shelton during this point. The US champion, though, did rebound by sending Kennedy's shoulder right into the post to finally get the upper hand. Shelton did some work on the shoulder itself, and that's interesting. Like, both men targeted the same body part. Now that he was the aggressor, he locked Kennedy in the cross arm breaker. The fans started to get behind Mr. Kennedy and began fighting back. He suddenly locked Kennedy in a hold himself before Shelton threw him right to the outside. He rammed that shoulder right into the apron before attempting a nothing as Kennedy kicked him right in the knee. Shelton bounced back with a crossbody, but that amounted to nothing as Mr. Kennedy hit the mic check for the victory. It was in Shelton's favor mostly, but he let the wind slip through his fingers basically. That's the story of the match. Shelton afterwards claimed that he was suffering an acute case of bronchitis. Yep, valid excuse in my opinion. Later that night, the Great Khali went one-on-one with Jeff Hardy. Khali was the #1 contender to the WWE title, and Jeff was starting to become the most popular star on the roster, so something had to give. Seriously, if you were a kid and you didn't like Jeff Hardy in 2008, like, what the hell? Jeff tried bringing the fight to Khali, but he was just too big. It took Khali exactly 1 clothesline to knock down Jeff. Khali softened Jeff with some simple moves, and they were very effective. Elbows, body slams, and it was one-sided. Hardy excelled in the selling department. He took all that punishment from Khali, and he made him look like $1,000,000. Despite fighting back, Jeff was back to square one. He was even bleeding from his shoulder, which once again wasn't very PG. Jeff finally dropped Khali with a whisper in the wind and a swanton, and just as Hardy was going for the cover, MVP interfered. This gave Khali enough time to recover and separate Jeff in half before applying the vice grip for the victory. At one point, this was my most feared finisher. Anytime Khali locked it in, it was gloomy, and I always believed he would win the match after he did so. Who remembers the episode when he squeezed Mysterio's head like that? Yeah, this was a slow match. It's a Khali match as expected, so yeah. Following this, they showed us insightful vignette into the mind of R-Truth, how he made it through the life of crime and prison, and how he's coming to the WWE, I guess. Oh, and who could forget one of these? As for the next match, first of all, damn Maria's song. It gives me 2008 vibes. Reminds me of SVR 2009, which I'll be playing in about a week on the second channel. I want to have fun with the Road to WrestleMania mode, so keep your eyes out on that if you're interested. Mick Foley even sung a part of Maria's song, which got a laugh out of me, as you can see here.
To tear your heart out. Okay, that's enough of that? Yeah, good.
As for her opponent, it was Victoria, who was in the twilight of her career. In the beginning, Victoria out-wrestled Maria, locked her in a hold, threw her around for a bit, and Maria was on the receiving end of a variation of the sidewalk slam. Maria responded with a leg drop and a spinning hurricanrana, but Victoria was there to hit a power slam. Now, I honestly don't remember Maria being that resilient. Whatever. Victoria locked her in the full Nelson, and this lasted for about 30 seconds. Maria fought back, and she managed to escape. Clothesline, weird looking one, whatever that was. She actually won the match. Like, honestly, that's a shocking result in my opinion, and it probably was expected because this was a return match, so there's that. Backstage, Edge is chatting with Alicia Fox, and he told her that she shouldn't be around here. Edge was still messing around with her, and he wanted Fox to be front and center in the arena to witness the cutting edge. And the next match was between Big Show and Domino. At this point, Big Show as a babyface was just there. They wanted to do something with him, but I guess they were waiting for some time to pass. As for Domino, Deuce was no longer his tag partner. He moved to Raw. They fought with one another. This was actually one of his final matches in WWE. The bell rings and Domino was thrown out easily. Big Show showcased the size and talent gap by throwing, chopping, and chokeslamming Domino to win the match. Right after the match, Umaga came out and it looked like these two were gonna go at it, but Umaga decided to fight another day, I guess. Well, I'm not sure because they transitioned to backstage. They showed us La Familia. They didn't have a clue on who the special guest was on the cutting edge, and about that, well, it seemed like there wasn't a special guest because Edge was a maniac at this point. It seemed like he thought of the guest on the fly. At least that's what it seemed like to me. It was a man whose name was synonymous with The Undertaker and Hell in a Cell, and he wanted this man to help him in his quest to vanquish The Undertaker. And that man was Mick Foley. He himself couldn't believe it. He thought it was a joke. He entered the ring and Edge said that there's something that eats away, something that lingers in Mick Foley's mind. Edge then showed a clip of 1998 in the Attitude Era, and in that clip Mick Foley was shown, and as you all know, the moment inside Hell in a Cell was featured. The fans chanted Foley, Foley after the clip, and Edge said that he knows that Foley's body feels that match as if it was yesterday. Even after all of that, Mick Foley's walked away on his own. Edge said that he saw Foley walk the day before that match, and since then, he's seen Foley try to walk properly, and The Undertaker is to blame. Edge said that if Mick helped him, he could exorcise the demon in The Undertaker, and maybe all of that will just wash away. Foley's response, sure, he wasn't the same. He lost a part of himself, and he would like to help Edge, but the Rated R superstar hurt his credibility. Foley said that he had a bond with the fans, and for weeks, for months, for years, he said that Edge is the greatest superstar in the WWE, even if it's been a very unpopular opinion. The problem is, though, the fans think Edge sucks, because they see an Edge who takes shortcuts, that is willing to play the numbers game, relying on his wife, and in conclusion, not only will Mick Foley not help him, but he can't. Like, he did kind of want to help Edge, but he was actually unable to. Foley said there is one person that can help Edge, and it is Edge himself. He said that he's got to find it in himself and bring that fury he had against Foley himself at WrestleMania. The same Edge who didn't mind his flesh burning because he won a match. And he's got to find that Edge and bring him to SummerSlam, and if he does and he brings this Edge, The Undertaker will tear him apart. Foley then asked Edge if he's understood, and Edge did understand, but then he blasted Foley with the microphone. Edge then ran into a flurry of punches from the hardcore legend himself, and Foley, and this looked like a scene from SpongeBob, began to search for a weapon. Once he found that chair, Edge booted him in the face before spearing him head first into the steel steps. Oh my god, he was retarded and he took a bump like that. Damn. He tried fighting back, but a low blow ended any hope of a comeback. Edge then jumped off a ladder with a chair onto Mick Foley, who was on a table. So Edge did take Foley's advice, and the way he said, I understand, cold-hearted. Yeah, that's Smackdown. Okay, that's the week WWE Went PG. A bunch of stuff actually did happen, and there's a lot of stuff that I never knew about, like Cole wrestling, Maria winning a match. So yeah, one moment I remember from this week was the Edge one. That's the only moment I actually remember watching as a kid. But yeah, it was fun making this video, as it seemed unique, I guess. Next video, I think Saturday Night's Main Event 2008. If I'm busy, it's Saturday Night's Main Event 2008, so yeah. That's your first video. Make sure you hit an FU on the like button and perhaps a spear on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.